Today, I'm very happy to be speaking with Mike Massari. Mike is the Chief Sales Officer of Caesar Entertainment and the new co-chair of Meetings Mean Business. Fabulous individual, incredible business person, and somebody who is extremely well-known, has a huge impact on the meetings and event industry. Enjoy listening to Mike Massari. Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Business of Meeting podcast. Today, I am so happy and so honored that I finally can have some time with Mike Massari. Mike is the Chief Sales Officer of Caesar Entertainment, co-chair of the Meeting Mean Business, an amazing individual, a great human being, a fabulous business person in our industry. Mike, as you can tell, I'm really thrilled to be talking to you today.
Well, I appreciate all that. That's very kind of you. I do want to tell your listening audience that amongst those things, I am also number 67 in terms of his choices for this podcast. So I appreciate the sentiment, but also know where I stand, Mr. Rosenberg.
Well, thanks, my friend. And as you know, this is recording today, just a week after WEC. So you might even get to 69 or 70. But the only answer I can say is, I had to train myself so that I am at the level that I can match to talk to you.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to be here talking to you as always. I've always enjoyed our conversations and our friendship. So hopefully we can have a conversation that is interesting to your listening audience.
I'm sure. And thanks again, Mike, for taking the time. So before we talk about how you join this industry, you're one of the rare people that if I want to look them into the eyes, I have really to look up and have problem in my neck. So was that volleyball or basketball that you played before?
Well, it was basketball, but we played everything growing up. I grew up in Delaware County, Pennsylvania, just outside of Philadelphia, and sports is an important part of life there. And so, basketball was what I chose to continue on with, but we played baseball, basketball, and football growing up, and we were always playing something. And so, and I think, Eric, not to segue into some of the questions you want to ask, but I don't think it's a coincidence that you see so many executives now, both male and female, that have had athletic careers. I think learning how to be leaders, learning how to be followers, learning the value of hard work, the value of practice, learning that sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and you have to do both with dignity. I mean, these are all things that you learn throughout your entire life, but you learn them very quickly on an athletic field. And sometimes life is played out in a 3-hour game. And so, I'm happy to have had an athletic career and have had those experiences. I think they've helped me in my business career.
No doubt about it. You make a great point about perseverance, about consistency. And as you say, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and you have to do that with elegance. That's just what life is all about and business is all about. So having said that, how did you join the meetings and event industry? Because a lot of people of our generation just fell into it. Was that your case, or is this something you say, that's the industry I want to be working in?
So I was working at a metal packing plant in Fallcroft, Pennsylvania, making $6.50 an hour when I was 15 years old. And I dropped off a friend at a catering hall at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Friday. And they had 15 or 18 call outs that day. As I was going in to go to the bathroom before I drove back to my home, the owner of the place saw me and said, "Hey, you want a job?" And I said, "I have a job." He said, "It pays $7.50 an hour." I said, "I want a job. What do I have to do?" And so they sent me up into the bridal salon. They threw a tux on me, and I worked a funeral luncheon, an afternoon wedding reception, and an evening wedding reception that day. That was 1985 in Springfield, Pennsylvania. I was 15 years old, and I haven't done anything but catered events in my life since then.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. And look, my story is not that unusual. So many of us end up in this business from a story like that. And, I ended up going to college for business and then getting a job working at the catering hall that I was managing, the catering hall I was working at after I got out of college. And I think I was the only person to leave the catering business and get into the hotel business so I could work less hours. But I took a job as a hotel salesperson in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, and then, worked for Wyndham Hotels and Resorts for a while and ended up going out to Las Vegas to open the Venetian in 1998 and then Caesars for the past 20 years. And so it's been an amazing experience, amazing career. I've done every job you can in the meetings and events business, and I've enjoyed every moment of it.
You know what? I think it's unique, though, to you, and less common, I would say, is the fact that you were the same organization for about 20 years now, and that
Yeah,
is less and less the case.
I've only really worked for, I've really, I mean, look, I've had some odd jobs like we all have, but I've really only worked for three companies in my life. I worked for that catering company called September's Place in Springfield, Pennsylvania, from the time I was 15 to the time I was 24, 25. Then I worked for Wyndham Hotels and Resorts for 3 or 4 years. And then I've 3 years at the Venetian, and then the last 20 was Caesars. And, so I've only really worked for 3 or 4 companies in my life, Eric.
Yeah, which is absolutely amazing. Now, in your career, so you have this longevity with the organization. What about the customer side? Are you seeing the same longevity when it comes to the customer? Do you see any difference in longevity when it comes to corporate or independent? And most importantly, how do you keep in touch? And what is your advice for business owners to keep in touch with people? Because we're all moving, but somehow we're staying in the same industry.
Look, I think what you find, Eric, is that, and look, this is a piece of advice, I guess, maybe for some people in your listening audience or for some of their colleagues or friends. I think what you find is that when you're early in your career, you're attempting to build your pyramid of success, and you're attempting to add the stones to your pyramid that give you the skills to progress up to the different levels of the pyramid. And so it's not uncommon earlier in your career for you to be with 3 or 4 different organizations, or maybe more, as you say, how do I build the skills to really, build my career in life? But then as you move up the levels of the pyramid and you have all the stones in place that you need to have a really successful career, that's when you start to see that you stay with places much longer, because you have to build up. I think there's a progression there once you get to the place where you say, I can take a big job with the company. I think the company wants to see that you're a good worker, that you're the right type of person, that you share their cultures and values, that you have the skills to do the job. Then once they say, okay, well, hey, Mike or Eric, we can find them a big job, then they have to look for a big job for you. And that takes some time. And so, it's not going to be, when you get to the middle part of your career and the latter part of your career, it's not 6 months when they, bring you in and have you take on a big giant job. So, I think early in the career, there's a lot of movement. Later in the career, there's less movement. And so I think what you see is, people that have been doing it for a while move around less, generally. In terms of how to keep in touch with them, like LinkedIn has been like the savior for all of us, right? I mean, you used to have to spend so much time keeping your Rolodex up to date and keeping track of everybody. And now you just say, hey, what's Eric Rosenberg up to? You hop on LinkedIn, and 3 seconds later, precisely what he's up to and how long has he been doing. And then you send him a note and say hi. So that's what I've been using. And I think that's what lots of people have been using.
And also in your career, so you're obviously an amazing salesperson. And in the meantime, in your role, I think you're overlooking like 50 different properties. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, we've got a lot of properties in our company, but most of our business happens in our properties in Las Vegas, Atlantic City, and Northern Nevada, Lake Tahoe, and Reno. So it's a really condensed business into a small amount of properties. And the sales piece is interesting, Eric, and maybe some of your more entrepreneurial small business owner listeners will identify with this. But I came up originally through the operations side of the business, then transitioned into the sales side of the business, where I spent a good portion of my career. But I run a business that only has one channel, right? And that's direct sales. Like, the only way you can purchase a meeting and event in this world and with my company is through direct sales. And so if we don't sell, we die. So we spend a lot of time on sales. But you can never forget that we're operating a business. We exist to create EBITDA, or operating income, for our shareholders. And so, sales is a channel, and it's how we find our customers. But we have to operate this business in such a way that we generate benefit for our shareholders. And as a leader in the meetings and events business, I think it's one of the things that we can all do better, is never forget that we're operating a business.
Absolutely. And there's 2 things that I really want to emphasize from what you just said, Mike. The first one is that, yes, we have a business. And too often I see with independent business owners, they go back to their comfort zone about logistics, about running meetings, which is very important, but they forget they have a business. And so they're not focusing and blocking the time to develop that business. But the second thing is, from having a pure role of sales to coordinating and overlooking a sales team. I draw the parallel if you have your own business. you're not doing the same things as you used to do in the past. You have to rely on other people. And so you're shifting more into a coaching role, and you have to train the people and help them grow without necessarily willing to do their own job that you used to do in the past. So how was this transition for you from being pure in sales to still being involved in sales, but more overlooking a sales team?
Well, so look, I would say two things. One of my roles in life is I'm a partner in a small venture capitalist firm called Connexus Equity Partners. And so we look at a lot of small businesses. And one of the things that we find in small businesses, Eric, I'm sure you see the same thing, is that the proprietor is often the primary salesperson. And that's fine. That's the way these businesses typically start. But if they're going to transition from small businesses to larger businesses, they have to put in place a executable and scalable sales process that is not based on the charisma and the network of the proprietor. And this is something that small businesses really struggle to do. And I think it's akin to the problem that you're articulating, which is you have people who are effective at sales, then you put them in leadership positions, and they might not be effective leading sales organizations. And I think you need to ask yourself as a small business owner, I think you need to say, okay, where are my sales coming from? If they're coming primarily from my network and my charisma, then I have to think about whether I want to create an income for myself and just keep the business at its current size. Or if I want to transition the business. And if I'm going to do that, I have to create a scalable and a repeatable sales process. Does that answer? Am I getting to where you were going?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's really the point. I've seen too many times with people that I'm advising, they going back to, oh, there's a big issue in something. So they jump into it because they like it. And quite frankly, I've been in that place as well. I thrive on unexpected, as most of us in this industry do. And we forgot that our role is not that. It's really focusing on building this company and having the relevant person taking more responsibilities than doing it yourself. So that's a big challenge that I see with small business. Absolutely.
Well, one of my favorite parables is sharpen the saw. Have you heard the parable about sharpen the saw? Right. And so, sometimes you find that you're too busy chopping down the tree to take time to sharpen the saw. And in this analogy, right, chopping down the tree is the logistics and getting into the weeds and trying to solve the problem. And sharpening the saw is thinking about the business and the strategy and the long-term outcomes. And you have to find time for both.
Absolutely. Now, last week we had the amazing MPI World Education Conference. That's the first event, like the restart of our industry, 1,200 people on site at the magnificent Caesar Forum. And just as a disclaimer, this show is not sponsored. I speak with the people that I want to, and you did a fantastic job. But what we discover with the forum that you just put together is, first of all, is the largest ballroom without pillar in the world.
It's the largest ballroom, period. The two largest ballrooms, each at 110,000 square feet. We say the largest pillarless ballrooms in the world because we want to constantly remind people that they don't have pillars, but they're the largest ballrooms, period.
It's amazing. American technology. I'm always amazed with the size. It's phenomenal. But what I was really impressed is, and that's a good sign as well for hope, I would say, for our industry. Every single people that I had an encounter with in the staff during the breaks at the food station, all of them smiling, happy to work, besides the fact that it was delicious. But all of them were telling, I don't know if you train them to say that, or it's just really genuine. Everybody was saying, thank you for being here. We're so happy to work again. It's
a little of both, right? I think maybe it's three things, really. So one is these are very good jobs. We have great customers. They want to help people. They're quite pleasant. They're quite great to work with. We've got great teams. We've got great buildings. So they're and they pay very well. So they're very good jobs. So people definitely want them. So that's, I think, the starting point. The second is that, we've always had very good teams in our businesses, and we work very hard to create great environments for people and to make sure that they have the tools and resources they need to do their job. And we treat them with dignity and respect, and we want them to grow and achieve their personal and professional objectives. So I think we we add to, the fact that they're good jobs by trying to put them in good environments. And then the third, and you've heard a lot of people say this, so this is not original Massari, but there's just a lot of grace in the world right now, Eric. And I'm happy to be serving people again. You're happy to be in the room being served, seeing everybody again. And yeah, our team members are just happy to be there, and they're happy to be doing what they love to do, which is to help people execute great meetings and events and serve them and make them happy and see them smile. And so, yeah, it's an uplifting and heartwarming thing, I think.
And then this feeling as well as going into a venue when it smelled brand new. That was really unique. And those meeting rooms with the glass, and you have a switch, and suddenly everything is dark, and it's I mean, what you.
It's really a great facility, and I think in the long run, Eric, you can talk about all the features, and there are many, and but I think at the end of the day, what's really going to set this facility apart is that it's a meetings facility that was designed by meetings professionals 100%. Every surface, every decision that was made in that building was made by, myself and my team. And we're in the meetings business, all we've ever done, so, as we talked about, I started doing this when I was 15, and that's all I've ever thought about. And so, that goes for most of my team as well. And so the building was designed by meeting professionals for meeting professionals. And so it's easy to work in, and it makes sense. And it's being really well received by the customers. And so, things like the largest ballrooms, but also the most divisible ballrooms, the most flexible ballrooms. These are things that I think really will play well over a long period of time, we hope.
Absolutely. And then when I extrapolate to Vegas, what's going on in Vegas? You have now, in the middle of the desert, you have a ice skating team the first year that went to the final of the Stanley Cup. Now you're having the Raiders, and we had this amazing opening night, at the Allegiant Stadium. You have so many sports teams talking about NBA as well. What's going on? I mean, you've been there for 20 years. How do you explain this explosion of venues, sports team, people moving just there?
Well, look, Vegas is a great place to live. The weather is good here almost all year. Even when the weather's bad, you can still do things, and it's still somewhat enjoyable. The infrastructure here is outstanding. The housing stock, the shopping, the accessibility to all the things you need to live a good life, parks and et cetera, and schools. And the work here for what we do is extraordinary. And so Vegas has been one of the fastest growing markets in the country for the last 30 years, maybe longer. And so now it's reaching this critical mass where it's getting big enough that, it starts to warrant all of these extra things that smaller cities generally don't have. And so you see, an NHL team that's got a game. I know this will be posted later, but today's June 22nd, and they've got a game tonight, a big game, against the Montreal Canadiens. And so they're in the Final Four in the NHL playoffs. We've, of course, got the Oakland Raiders, as you said, and maybe there's going to be more. And so I think you'll see now that Vegas is kind of above the 2 million mark and approaching the 3 million mark in terms of residents, you'll start to see all these extra things happen. And for those of us who've been here a while, it's like our little towns growing up, and it's great, but it's a great place to live. So I think it's going to continue to grow.
Yeah, it's very surprising, and a positive side. And also looking forward to going back to all the shows that are there. And we had the pleasure, thanks to you, to have Usher going to the conference.
How cool is that guy, by the way?
He is. You know what? And the interview, I think, with Paul make him appear like he is. It's very human, very approachable.
Sure.
You're gonna laugh because that's probably not politically correct what I say, but I always tell my daughters when they see somebody important or an artist that, listen, at the end of the day, everybody take their shower naked. But the guy was really human, and having him and Paul in contrast, when they look at Paul and said, you have to make love to the camera, I think that's something we all gonna remember, but very, very human person, really. Thanks.
Yeah, it was great. And, Las Vegas has some of the best entertainment in the world. And, unfortunately in mid-June for WAC, we weren't We didn't have all of our, all of the hours in our quiver, so to speak, because, we just opened up on June 1st. It takes a little time to book all the acts, but, all of you come back here in mid-July or later, and you'll be able to partake in a lot of that. But, between Penn and Teller and Usher, we still figured out a way to get some of the WC attendees a glimpse of what Las Vegas entertainment is like.
Yeah, that was phenomenal. Now, not only now with your role with Caesar, but you are the brand new co-chair of Meetings Mean Business. So for those who don't know Meetings Mean Business and its important role, can you please just in few seconds remember what is Meetings Mean Business, what is the role, and what do you expect to do in the next 2 years?
Yeah, well, for me, Meetings Means Business is about advocacy for the meetings and events industry, right? We're often maligned and misunderstood, and occasionally even attacked. And if you think about President Obama's comments in February of 2008 about meetings and events, particularly in that case Las Vegas, all the way to this past 14 months, I mean, people don't understand two things, I think. One is that nothing good in this world has ever happened until first someone had a meeting. And so we literally change the world when we gather together. And so, it's quite important to society to do so. And then the second thing they don't understand is just all of the different parts of society that the meetings and events business touches, right? From airplane tickets to cab drivers to dry cleaners to local drayage companies to, of course, hotels and resorts. But restaurants, almost every person that lives in a community benefits from meetings and events happening in that community and the tax dollars that are associated with it, et cetera. And so MMB exists to articulate that to people, mostly to our government officials, so that they understand how to help their communities by understanding meetings and events better and allowing us to execute great meetings and events in their communities. And so we were started just after the recession started in 2007, 2008, and we've been in existence ever since. And I was a founding member, and I've been a proud partner of them since day one. And I'm honored to be chairing it for this past year alongside Fred Dixon. And U.S. Travel is our big partner in this regard. And I would encourage all of your listeners and anybody that's in the meetings and events business to get involved in MMB. More people advocating locally and nationally on understanding the meetings and events business is just going to be better for us in the long run.
For sure. Now, assuming I'm a small business owner and I live in Boca Raton, what can
let's assume, hypothetically.
What can I do in terms of advocacy to support meetings mean business? What is my role? Because I think that a lot of people, wrongly so, would think, well, I'm too small, I cannot do anything. It's only for the big shot in our industry.
Yeah, that's an incredible question. I think it's an important one. So I'm going to give you the long answer. It's not that long, but I'll give you the long answer. So our weakness as an industry is that we're so disparate, that we have so many different people that are part of our industry, including maybe a small business owner from Boca Raton. And so it's hard for us to coalesce around one voice with the strength of, the automobile industry or the pharmaceutical industry, et cetera. But our strength is also our distribution, is that we have all of those people. And so it's a little harder for us to coalesce nationally, but MMB and US Travel give us that platform to do so. But what all of the different disparate organizations in our industry can do is to get involved locally. So as a small business owner in Boca Raton, you're connected to the local political scene and to what's going on there, and you can advocate at that level, and that's our strength. If we can have all of the Eric Rosenbergs, well, this is a hypothetical example, of course, so we're not talking about Eric Rosenberg, but all of the people like you, Eric, if we can have everybody advocating locally, that really gives us a groundswell, of national, local politics that other industries just can't match. And so I think we need to leverage our strength, and our strength is our distribution. Mm-hmm. Does that answer your question?
Definitely. Absolutely right. I guess the challenge for Meetings Mean Business as an organization is to coordinate all those efforts at the same time with everyone, right?
Yeah, look, I would say that encouraging people to do so and to provide them the information and the understanding on how to do so, of coordinating it, like, let's just let it happen. Like, I think, let's have a whole bunch of activism happening, in Boca Raton and in Fort Worth and in Anaheim and all over the country before we try to direct it and coordinate it. Let's just get it going.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just encourage people to get in the game and start having those conversations, because, broadly speaking, most people don't understand what the meetings and events business does. And so we need to articulate that to people so that they do understand. So that here would be a great example of this. So we've known for some time how to execute safe meetings and events. We created this as a mutually exclusive topic: either gather together and be unsafe, or don't gather together and be safe. We've known since late last summer, middle of last summer, how to do both. It was, and we were unable in many communities to convince people that we could do both, because people didn't understand the societal importance of meetings and events. They didn't understand the community impact of meetings and events, and they didn't understand how important safety and the protocols were to us. And so we want to make sure that we can articulate all these messages in the long run, so that we're faced with a situation like this again 5, 10, 15 years from now, or some other situation that we're not currently contemplating, that we don't end up in this same situation where airports are open, restaurants are open, sporting events are open, and meetings and events are not open, where it should have been, from my point of view, the opposite.
Absolutely, to your point, and how we are protecting people and doing the right protocol to have safe meetings. And just to go to the conference last week, I get this. You go to the check-in, and then suddenly everybody's coming at the gate like they're gonna miss the plane and cracking one next to each other. I mean, seriously, there's more to be done.
Meanwhile, at this event, and look, this was MPI's choice. At MPI's event, there was rounds of 4. There was plenty of social distancing. There was an understanding that some people wanted more space than others, and so you had this great environment where you can clearly be both safe and productive. And you contrast that with other experiences, and it's much better, right? Because it's controlled. It's attended by professional people who are trying to do what they need to do for their business. So they listen to the rules, they follow the rules generally. Much better experience.
Absolutely. And to your point, it was great that for those who want to hug, you can hug now, you're vaccinated, or those who are just, keep your distance, fine. I was, we were always laughing. And me, I like to see the humor in everything, even in the difficult situation. But having people telling me that they're not going to get vaccinated because they don't know what's inside the vaccine while they're eating a hot dog and drinking a diet soft drink, it's kind of interesting.
Well, what I also think is humorous is that, so for your audience, what the speakers tried to do is they tried to break down people who were huggers, despite everything, they just want to get a hug in. People who were noodlers, which are people that wanted to be, 6 feet apart from everybody. Yeah. And what were the other category? People that were Zoomers that wouldn't even come to the meeting. And what was the fourth category?
That would go with the elbow or something.
The elbows, right? Yeah. And what's interesting, I think, is that you probably could have separated people out by those same categories pre-COVID. Right? There are people who wanted to hug, and there are people that just really didn't want to hug. Now, they were probably forced into hugging pre-COVID, but not anymore. Now they have their excuse to say, I'm going to use COVID as my reason not to hug you.
Exactly. And then the elbow, I remember I just hit somebody in the elbow. No, I'm just kidding. Just Now, you've been seeing a lot, like all of us. I do remember that after the last crisis, 2010, as we were emerging from what was going on, there was a huge increase in independent business owners. A lot of people thought, I cannot find a job, or I don't want to be working for somebody else anymore, or I want to have a shot. Are you seeing the same thing right now? And do you expect to see the same thing, whether in your role at Caesars or in meetings in business?
Yeah, look, I think so. No, in my role at Caesars or meeting in business, but yes, in my role with Connexus, there are many of us that have the entrepreneurial spirit, right? And we end up working for a company for whatever reason, and then when faced with an inflection point like 2008 was, and like COVID has been. You rethink your priorities and you rethink your opportunities. And so I think that's really what drove the increase in independent businesses, was just the inflection point that people rethink their priorities and what they want to do. And this is obviously has been one also. So yeah, I think you're going to see, and we already have seen, in terms of small business startups and great ideas that are out there and people taking their shot. I think you're going to see lots of that. And I think that's great for society. I think that's great for the people doing it. I think it's great for idea creation. I think it's great all around. So, there is occasionally a silver lining that comes out of these otherwise dark clouds. And I think this is one of them.
Yes. Thank you for that. My last question, Mike, we're going to see each other the latest at IMEX in November. And we're going to celebrate a glass of champagne. What are we going to celebrate in November? What would be the difference between today and November?
Oh, the difference between today and I'm not much of a prognosticator for what's going to happen in the future, Eric. I whatever desire I had to predict the future went away when I went 300 straight bad predictions from the beginning of COVID to today. So I don't know what's going to be different in November. I'll tell you what's going to be the same though. I think that's vitally important. So, you're going to see people like me and our teams at Caesars Entertainment trying to help people execute great meetings and conferences. You're going to see people trying to understand what their customers are trying to achieve and how they can really help them achieve it. And you're going to see, I think, just a really heartfelt desire to be servants and to be helpers and to understand what people want and how they can deliver it. And so, that's what we're thinking about. That's what we're going to do more of. And hopefully we'll be better at that in November than we are today.
Awesome. Mike, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. Can't wait to see you again face to face, and good luck with all the ventures. You're an amazing individual. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. And it's a pleasure talking to you as always. And if anybody in your audience has any follow-up questions for me, they can always reach me at mmassari@caesars.com, and I'd be happy to help them in any way that I can.
Awesome. Thank you. Mike, thank you again for speaking with me. Great points you made, especially for business owners that need to concentrate on growing their business and not going back to the things that they know. Thanks so much. Can't wait to see you again at the next conference. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to connect with me, please go on LinkedIn or join the Facebook group, www.eventbusinessformula.com/group, where I discuss everything related to the meetings and event industry and independent business owners. Thank you.